We are? Welcome, everybody, to the March 8th, 2018 meeting of the City of Ojai Historic Preservation Commission. Sherry, would you like to conduct roll call?
Chair McCready.
Here.
Vice Chair Akins.
Here.
Commissioners James. Here. And our new commissioner, Gina McHatton. Here. And we have Thais Quinn and Cynthia Convery and Terry Hill, all three absent tonight.
Thank you very much. And that is our first order of business, to welcome our newest commissioner, Gina McHatton. We're very pleased to have you on our commission. We've been looking forward to it for a long time.
Thank you.
So, welcome.
She did receive her oath of office from the city clerk.
Thank you. With that, if you'll stand, I'll lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Members of the public wishing to address the Historic Preservation Commission on items appearing on the agenda are requested to complete a speaker's card and file it with the Secretary prior to the start of the Historic Preservation Commission meeting. Cards are available in the Council Chambers lobby. All comments should be limited to 3 minutes unless additional time is granted by the Chair. Speakers should state their name and address for the record and must direct their comments to the Chair, not the audience or press. While the Historic Preservation Commission is in session, members of the Commission, city staff, and members of the audience are expected to maintain order and decorum and to obey the orders of the Chair. I see our museum representative is not present yet, but we'll reserve the right to go to him directly when he arrives. With that, I'll open it to the public comment period. Craig Walker.
General, or are they for a specific item on our agenda?
Good afternoon. My name is Craig Walker, 1160 Lake Avenue in Ojai, and I'm here tonight to urge this group to do a historic report on the Ojai Theater. I know that we, as a former member of the commission, it wasn't high on our priority because we felt that the owner was taking good care of it and would preserve it as a historic structure. It is the first Mission Revival building downtown, predated the arcade and pergola, and it's been one of the longest continuously running movie theaters in America, really, but especially on the West Coast. And it's definitely had a significant history in the life of the people of the Ojai Valley. But now we read that it's up for sale. So I think this is an opportune time to really get at the historic significance of the building and really evaluate that and look at it possibly for further action. So that would be my request of this commission, to put that as quickly as you can on your agenda so that we can move along on it. Thank you.
Thanks. Elise Dupuy.
Elise Dupuy, Ojai. I would like to second what Craig just said about the theater. I mean, we know there's, I personally did a 100-year history of the movie theater, so we have a lot of history available on it, and during the trial, the court case, it would have really helped a lot to move the case along if it had already been a historic landmark. So I think the time is right to get moving on it. So I took it upon myself to look at the sites of merit list, and I reviewed it, and I have one for everyone, and I can email this to anybody who would like me to.
Thank you.
It's basically just an analysis of where it's at right now. Currently, there's 37 on the sites of merit list, and 4 of those are already landmarked, so they need to get removed. and one structure has been demolished, the olive mill. So that leaves 32 structures left on the list. And I broke them down into who owns those lists. So I thought Dawn suggested that it might be helpful. Like, there's 2 that are owned by the city, the Pergola and the Boyd Club. So those might be easier to move forward on. There are 3 publicly owned, the Matilaha Junior High, the Ojai Art Center, and the Ojai Library. So those might be next easiest to move on. Then the next category are the private institutions, Gray Gables of Ojai, the Acacias, the newer Presbyterian Church, Crotona Institute, the Liberal Catholic Redwood Church, the Ojai Valley School Frost Hall, the Fox House owned by Wheel Academy, and the Humane Society. And then you can read it there. The rest are the privately owned businesses, and the next section are privately owned homes. So I don't know if letters could be sent out to those people asking if they'd be interested in getting their properties landmarked or not. I don't know how the procedure is, but I just did this and I thought it'd be helpful.
It is. Thank you very much. With that, I'd like the members of the commission to disclose any ex parte contacts or visits they've had with either people or places on the agenda tonight.
Before we go, was that a public comment or is that an item?
Public comment.
Okay, great, thank you.
No. The last speaker was a public comment.
Yeah.
Any ex parte contacts to disclose tonight? Commissioners, thank you.
Nope.
No public comment, no consent items, public hearing items. Agenda item number 1. That is the plaque location for the City of Ojai Historic Landmark number 23, the Smith-Hobson House, in which we sit tonight. We need to discuss the potential location for the historic landmark plaque, which has already been approved by this commission. And so with that, there being no staff to report tonight, I will open it up for commissioner comments.
So
Commissioner Akins?
just a question, is there any public comment on item number 1?
Oh, I'm sorry, there is.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Elise?
Elise DuPoit. I just feel I'm kind of bummed because I didn't know that this, I guess I missed the November meeting where all this was decided on, and I don't know how it got decided, the wording got decided on this, or who wrote it, or how it got developed, but I just feel like there's several errors in it, and I just have to speak out about it, so I have written what I feel like it should be, and I don't know how expensive.
Has the plaque been made already?
Yes.
Yeah, I found a couple of sentences that I wanted to, I found a couple of sentences I wanted to change too.
She just said
Okay.
she found something wrong. To tell you the truth, I have done a lot of research on this property, both when I wrote my first book and then when Craig and I revised the history book. And I have firsthand contact with a descendant of the Hobson Smith family, Barbara Smith. She's now like 90, about 91 years old, and she lives in Hawaii. But when I was in touch with her, it was in 2009, and I have correspondence from her by email, and she describes what happened. And I have also some newspaper clippings, snippets that I sent to Brian, which renders some of this not correct. So I don't know how to proceed.
Can you help us with your points?
Well,
Do you have them itemized?
I just rewrote it.
Oh.
First of all, the first thing is when the Hobsons first started to come up this way, because Helen was often ill, and she came up to go to the spa, the hot springs. Then they decided to buy a place here, and on this site was a four-room bungalow. So they didn't build a brand new place. There was a building on here, a four-room bungalow already on, and then they, over a period of years, they expanded on it. So to say they indicate that they built a brand new building here, I don't think, it's not correct.
Okay.
But you have those.
I do, and so I went through it a little bit based on the information you gave me. So right off the top, it says in 1907, Abram and Helen Hobson built the all-wood Smith-Hobson home in the American craftsman style. That seems to indicate that they built it from scratch in that time frame. And I believe, according to the correspondence you had and some of the newspaper articles, that date doesn't jive with the time frame.
So what was the time frame of the
Okay,
craftsman?
well, before
the
we,
date-
before
the
we go,
date's right.
I'd like to, are there other errors you'd like to point out
Well,
before we
the
get
date
into a
is right.
freewheeling discussion here?
The date is right of 1907, but there
Okay.
was already a four-room bungalow on the property when they bought it,
Okay,
that they enlarged on. The second is, it appears to read that there were plans made by Reed and
Mead and Requa?
Mead and Requa in 1917. There's absolutely not one bit of evidence that that was true.
Huh.
I mean, David Mason said there were plans made by Requa, but there's no date associated with where, those plans are not known, where those plans are or what the date of those plans are. So all we know is that around 1927 was when the
Remodel?
the remodel was completed, and then the year after that was the little house. That's right, they called it the little house, was built, according to Barbara's memories of it. So I just think it's wrong to say that that this was built or remodeled in 1917 is,
Okay.
I just don't, so those are my two main concerns. And then I love the sentence I put in there about, because the whole estate is being landmarked, so to describe what the estate was like at the time of my third paragraph,
Mm-hmm.
I think really makes it a really nicer plaque. Thank you for
Thank
your
you.
time.
I think what we need to do then is, for a future meeting, agendize this as a discussion item for the commissioners to see if we can make corrections or verify that there are errors. Rather than going into it tonight, we have just barely a quorum. So thank you for your input, Elise. Then what we ought to do is shelve this. Are there any other comments from the commissioners?
Just one,
James?
on the very last, I was kind of agreeing with her, but on the last, the last paragraph in the last sentence, it says, it's one of those long, sentences, and I thought maybe put a period after Wild
Okay.
and put in 1976, the Smith-Hobson House became the city hall. Instead of, because it's a really long sentence with a lot of,
Okay.
anyway, that's all I had.
So,
Well, I think we need to agendize it, and we can't talk about the location, and that is the agenda item, so I think we need to shelve it and go on
May I
to,
ask a question?
please.
Then when we re-agendize it, would you like it set up on the plaque as presented by Elise? And put it on for you to review it in that way?
No, I think that we need
You
to
want to just review your existing?
review the existing, make corrections as necessary, and we'll have to make a motion for another plaque, and I
Yeah.
mean, there's a lot to do.
Okay, so we'll continue
If-
this, that's perfect.
Chair, one other thing.
Please.
So, the other thing that people had asked was the cost of redoing the plaque, because this plaque does exist. So I talked to Sherry earlier this afternoon, I think that was $460. Just so, that's a question that I get asked through this week. I do want to thank Elise for all the information you sent me,
Yeah,
appreciate
that's
that.
really good to get historical accuracy, I like that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 2. plaque language for City of Ojai Historic Landmark Number 24, Nordhoff Grammar School, located at 414 East Ojai Avenue. In the public comment, Elise, you could just stay up there.
Okay, I've rewritten the plaque text. And I can email any of this stuff to anybody. I would like you to email it all. Okay.
Thanks.
Is this the same thing you sent me?
Well, it might have changed
Yep.
a tiny bit.
Oh, no.
And this, just question, Sherry, this is the first pass at the language done by staff. Okay, so we are open
At
to
the
your
begin-
comments.
I'm
and-
on the right track this
Yeah. You're here early.
Yeah.
Please go ahead.
I actually thought the writing on that made me think, but are they sure they really want to make this a historic landmark? But that's one paragraph in there. But do you want me to read this, or?
Please.
Okay, this is our longest, most favored version.
So you and Craig worked on this and then shortened it, correct?
Yeah, and I have two other little bit shorter versions, but this is our most favored one. In 1895, the trustees of the Nordhoff School District authorized construction of the two-story wood-frame Nordhoff Grammar School to be built at the northeast corner of Ojai Avenue and North Montgomery Street. By 1927, prominent local architect Roy C. Wilson was commissioned to design a new Spanish Revival-style grammar school on the grounds. The original 1895 school building was moved to a back corner of the property where it was used for social activities until it was demolished in 1938. The new school consisted of 8 classrooms in a one-story building adjoined by an arcade facing Ojai Avenue and topped by a terracotta tiled roof. A tower with blue and gold tiles was built just west of the building's arcade. The tower was lowered in 1954 due to earthquake concerns, and the bell, which had originally been in the 1895 school, was removed. The bell now sits in front of the buildings on Ojai Avenue. A three-classroom addition was built in 1929, and another 3 were added in 1937, which completed the architect's original U-shaped design. The Chaparral Auditorium, located to the east of the original classrooms on Ojai Avenue and completed in 1938, was also designed by Roy Wilson. Improvements were made in 1953-54 from plans drawn up by noted Los Angeles architect Maynard Leonard. He had the bell tower lowered, added offices at the southwest corner of the school, and designed the modern kindergarten building on North Montgomery. In 1953, the district changed the name of the school to Ojai Elementary School, and it continued to serve Ojai school children until 1976, when the school closed and the Ojai Unified School District, which had formed in 1966, relocated its offices there. This landmark designation is for the buildings facing Ojai Avenue and includes the original 8 classrooms, offices, and the Chaparral Auditorium. So that's our long version. I've got 2 other versions. I don't know if you want them or not, but
You anticipated my comments that,
too long.
no, I think that, we got all the
Oh, you
information
mean
that
you
needs to
had-
be there
Oh,
about the order in which the pieces were constructed and
Oh,
the
you-
architect and style. So
oh, you like it? Okay, good.
I like it.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
Chair, maybe she could email me all the versions, and then we could provide those in the packet for the commission, all the versions.
That'd be great.
Thank you. There being no other public comments on this item, I'll open up for discussion for the commissioners. Mr. Akins.
Yes. Again, looking at what we did on the language on the Smith-Hobson one that we've already reviewed, I think, and now trying to start this from the beginning, I think I would like to Make a motion that we postpone this discussion until we have a fuller quorum here.
Do I have a second? All those in favor, signal.
Yes.
All those opposed? The motion carries. We're continuing it. Thank you. And that brings us to the budget, item number 3. And I'd like to invite the public comments, Elise Dupuy. Yes.
Is this where you talk about, like, requesting to have certain reports made? Or is that part of the
It's,
budget?
we're discussing the budget for the HPC for 18 and 19 to send to council for their approval.
Like, is this where I would request that you have historical reports made for certain things, or not?
This is where we would discuss requesting the funds for that, and that is in our
Okay.
request.
Well, I would like to request funds
Okay.
to do a historical report, research report on the Ojai Playhouse, this year, and the Boyd Center, and begin working on a downtown historic district. And I know we've mentioned historic district a few times now, and I found, there's been a discussion about where it would be, and I've made a map of where I would hope it would be for.
Thank you.
And
Thank you, Elise.
And then I found this wonderful article about 10 benefits. I better read it out and go back to the mic. This is a really great
Oh, yeah, I
article,
have that.
because we're gonna have to work hard on this one if we want it. I found this article from the National Trust for Historic Preservations on the 10 benefits of creating a historic district for your town center. And if you look at it, it'd be great. I mean, it's,
We will, this is actually a different item.
so my
So-
request would be for the budget to ask for a historic research report for
Thank you.
this historic district. Thank you.
Thank you. I will open it up to commissioner discussion now. Everyone has the materials in front of them for this year, potential this year's request and last year's. I had one question under the contract services. The 15,000 number, is that that's an increase over our past years. It's quite significant.
It was on last year's as well.
Yes.
Oh, I didn't include last year's. Oh, this is last year's for you. It is there.
Yes, it is there,
Mhm.
but I'm just. Yeah, I'm just questioning the amount,
Yeah, it is 15,000.
and in the past, it's been 15?
Yes.
It seems, okay.
Doesn't it say 25,000?
And so that is for the HBC to nominate buildings for landmark designation, and the budget is to cover the cost of the historic resources report and other expenses associated with nominating a landmark for designation. So that is what you were speaking to, Elise. And it's not specific to a building. So typically what we would do is we would agendize this for a future meeting where we would discuss which sites or buildings we would nominate. and which sites or buildings we would request of council to fund the Historic Resources Report for. So there's training in here for classes and seminars. There's money in here for the plaques, the actual plaques to be made, advertising and promotion, postage and shipping, materials and office supplies. I know we do need some, I noticed when we held the jail open this year, we need more of the pamphlets on our list of historic sites of merit. So maybe we need to clean that up in response to your comments. Thank you. And are there any other commissioner comments or
Yeah, I have some.
Akins?
On the $5,000 in training, how much money did we spend in 2017, 2018?
Commissioner, or Chair McCready was the only one that attended a training last year.
I did.
Oh, I thought you left early?
Was that
No,
The one where you left early?
No,
Okay.
17?
I mean, I didn't stay the night there, but.
I don't think it exceeded 3,000 last year. I don't have it in front of me
Okay.
because that's what I would say,
So,
3,000.
so we think two individuals, $3,000?
Last year, yeah,
Okay.
used.
No, I just didn't stay at the hotel because I didn't like it. So I drove back and forth.
Okay, thank you. Landmark plaques, when we talked earlier today, Sherry, the ones for the building that you did were $460. You said the ones for homes are typically how much?
Well, for the homes, they are the same. However, they are paid for by the owners
Okay,
through their Mills Act trust fund, if they have a Mills Act trust fund.
okay, so that wouldn't come out of that $1,300. Terramina, has Terramina been paid for? Hopefully it'll be paid for before the end of this fiscal
Well,
year.
Terramina's is gonna be different because it's not the bronze, it's 127 times 2.
254, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
and it will be paid for, yeah. They're ordered.
Okay, that's gonna be paid for out of the city budget and then should
Yeah.
be, as you said, their order should be in this year's fiscal budget.
That's right.
So the $1,300 would basically apply to places where the HPC recommended the city council did them but aren't
Or city
homes.
like that list that Elise just gave us,
Right, and
like the
the ones that are
ones.
city-owned or publicly owned.
Mhm.
So other than that, private institutions, privately owned businesses, privately owned homes, those would be paid for by the Mills Act.
Only if they've applied for the Mills Act, because a landmark designation application is $0. And so we would use, if that's all they apply for, then we are gonna use this budget for their plaque.
Okay,
But if they apply for a landmark, or Mills Act, pardon me, then the Mills Act has a $1,500 deposit, and we use a portion
okay.
of the $460 out of that.
oh, that's
for
good to
their
know.
plaque.
Very good to know, thank you.
Mhm.
One other question, contract services, we didn't do any historical reports this year, 2017, 2018.
Yeah, we did the grammar school. And although that
We
was
started
last
the grammar
fiscal year,
school
that was last fiscal year.
back when I was in high school. So,
It was last, yeah, so
inside
we
joke.
didn't do any this year, yeah.
okay, so I didn't think we did any in this fiscal year.
That's right.
Do you remember about what the cost was for each of those reports?
Yes, they can run around to 3,000 apiece.
Okay,
Mhm.
So it looks, did you have more?
I
No,
can give you
that's what I had.
exact
Thank you.
amounts.
It looks to me like the contract services number, although it's a decrease, it looks like it's more in line with what is actually spent in previous years. So it seems right to me. I'm just,
It looks like the training and education is 2,700 less as well. Is that true, Sherry?
Say that one more time?
It says training and education is 2,700 less than it was
Mhm.
last year.
Mhm.
it looks
The
like,
year
N- n-
before,
no, it's,
meaning,
yeah,
meaning fiscal year
16,
16,
17.
17.
It was
Oh,
$2,700 higher.
Mm-hmm.
And there were a lot more of us that went, and I, for one, appreciated being in the historic St. Bonaventure Hotel downtown. I was
Wasn't that neat?
It's a
walking all
nice
over
hotel,
it,
yeah.
enjoying all the history.
Yeah.
Does it cost more to do reports for a district than it would for an individual building?
Yes.
Yes.
And I'm looking up now receipts because I just realized I have access to my computer. I forgot. Anyway, you can keep asking questions if you want there.
That one class up in Palo Alto, would that be really expensive or beyond the budget? Because you have one going on up in Palo Alto at the Sheraton.
In May.
Yeah, in May.
I mean, we can request funds for any, you know,
Anyone? Okay.
but we need to try to stay within our budget.
Yeah, I know.
And it looks like there's an attempt made here by staff to average the actual expenses from previous years and come up with a number.
The average
They
would
may look
be-
like they're less, but they look reasonable to me.
The average per commissioner for the registration, the hotel, and food and travel is $1,200 to $1,500 per person.
So if you had 5 people that wanted to go, you'd probably need
Mhm.
more money, yeah.
Can I make one other comment, please?
Yes, please.
Under the $200,000 for material and office supplies, under informational brochures, and Don, I think, has brought this up in our previous meeting, is to update the walking tour.
Yeah, I'm working on that.
Well, no, that wasn't a reflection on you, it was a reflection on us.
Okay.
I consider it a joint project, so.
And one correction, the Smith Hobson House, Historic Resources Report was 5,200.
Okay.
Wow, that's a lot.
They can vary.
So what I'm saying is, if we,
You need to turn your mic on. Commissioner McCatton?
yes, if we were, it says every year we average a couple of reports on buildings. If we do an entire district, how is that going to affect
Yeah,
our goal?
might use your whole fund.
It's a factor we would have to discuss.
Mhm. And going to the council, do you want to request more? Because Chair McCready, you're going to take this list to the council at their next budget meeting.
I know it's a significant decrease, but when I look at the items, it looks reasonable to me.
Unless, like, a lot of people wanted to go to all the classes. We only
Yeah.
had 2 of us last year, so it wasn't very many.
I found some really interesting classes with the California Historic, where it was online, where it was live, and they were like $40 a piece, and they just seemed like they had a lot of information.
They have both online and.
Good point.
So I'll entertain a motion to approve this request.
Second?
I'll go ahead and make the motion then. I moved to submit the $23,000 number with the breakdown as shown in the background discussion that we've had for $23,000 to the council for the 2018-2019 fiscal year budget, please.
Do I have a second?
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion passes. Item 4, future agenda items. I have a speaker request card from Mr. Wyrick. Councilman Wyrick, welcome.
Thank you. I wanted to ditto what was already said by Elise and by Craig. And this gets to a future agenda item, believe me. On the issue of the Playhouse, and I have been thinking it needs an historic resources survey for some time now. And Elise is exactly right. The situation with the award, the judgment for the plaintiff in the restoration of the building was based on the importance of this property, the importance of this history and the cultural fabric of the community. That was part of the litigation. And the fact that we don't have an historic resources survey certainly impeded making that case, but they made it nevertheless based on testimony from the community and the history in the community. And what is so valuable to me about the Playhouse, beyond the cultural fabric, beyond the fact that it's, I believe someone told me it's the longest continuously operating movie theater in the West Coast or something.
I believe in California.
In California. That's pretty significant. In that it is time to, I think, get all that documented. Now's the time, as it's being finished up, to document that. I think, frankly, if we could all by any chance get an historic resources survey by the time that it's sort of rededicated, it would be something that'd be nice to have that. I believe there's $15,000 in unexpended funds in the current budget, in the current fiscal budget for historic resources survey. And I would love you personally, as an individual council person, speaking as an individual council person, to put on a future agenda item proposals from staff for you to look at and recommend to council to proceed with an historic resources survey, if you could not, or just recommend to staff to proceed with that using the current funding. I would love that to be on the next meeting.
Thank you.
And you could ask them for, that would, rather than just put it on the meeting to discuss, you could have on the agenda to ask staff to bring proposals in for you to look at and possibly approve.
Thank you.
That's my suggestion for a future agenda item.
Thank you. So, future agenda items, the Cultural and Historic Preservation Ordinance update is April 12th. Selection of new chair and vice chair, May 10th. The USC summer courses are the week of May 14th to the 25th. Anything else from the commissioners?
Yeah, I just want to address several comments that have taken place. So, we talked about the historic district. We brought it up with the council in our joint meeting a month ago. I was looking to see if we had the encouragement of the council, and we came away with it basically for someone to pull the various businesses that are within the historic district that Elise put a very nice chart to us. And in thinking about the Ojai Playhouse, I actually went this afternoon and talked to Khaled in Primavera Gallery, since he's involved in both of these things, and wanted to kind of talk about that, since in finding out, to me, the mystery was always who owns the different businesses in the arcade, because different people do. I talked with Khaled first about the Playhouse. He said they're moving along. They expect that Playhouse to be have its grand opening somewhere around 5 months from now. He is trying to tamp Joan Kemper's enthusiasm back. She would like to put up a big tent on Ojai Avenue and shut down Ojai Avenue. She feels it's very much willing and deserving of that kind of recognition and that kind of party in the community to meet the frustration that he and the rest of us have had in it being closed and going through all this. So he was, and about, I asked him about it being recognized as his historic structure. For him personally, he's very involved in the in what's going on in rebuilding that and coming off a little bit of courtroom fatigue. And so I do like the suggestion in talking to other people that we look at, as we did with the grammar school, that we be proactive in looking to get a historic report done for the Ojai Library or for the Ojai Theater, just for our own benefit and education, so that we truly understand, because I wasn't there for Craig's testimony in court, but I've heard it was fabulous. I have a note to myself to ask him if he can email that to me, so I have it for the archives I've been building. So I would support our getting a historic resources report for the Ojai Playhouse, just so we know. One of the things I was thinking as I was driving home, usually there's a big discussion on whether there are items within the historic home, historic structure, that are to be landmarked. I know we looked at Commissioner Quinn's house on the Aliso Street Adobes and looked in there. There were a couple things that we liked that were very interesting. The Haida seat that pulled out, but we landmarked the exterior things. And I was wondering, is there anything inside those walls that's historic? And I'm pretty sure that it's being recycled someplace if there was. I was able to go in and look at that hole shortly after it took place, and there wasn't even dirt left. So again, I would support doing something like that, and it's always better for me to be proactive and knowledgeable in going in and making a decision. On the 37 historic structures of merit, one of the questions.
So you're moving into commissioner comments?
No, I'm talking about. Do we need
We're
to-
still on future agenda items.
Right, and so the suggestion was to clean up the 37 historic
okay.
sites of structure,
Okay, go ahead.
correct? So, anyway, and we talked about that in the item. One of the questions that I came up and suggested to me, we originally went to 37. I'm looking at a thank you to Pat Clark Dorner. I know she lost 14 file cabinets worth of Ojai history, but we are fortunate that before that took place, probably about a year ago, she brought over 2 boxes of her Historic Preservation Commission papers. And so I was going through those yesterday, and one of them was a Ojai Valley News article from February 15th, 2013. It is basically Historic Ojai, What's Worth Preserving. It says the Historic Preservation Commission, many of you will remember when they were going to look at things that are 50 years old, there was a backlash. That proposal was rejected by the City Council. The City Council came back. It says, Commission went back to work on a suggestion from Mayor Paul Blatz and other members of the council. The suggestion was that the HPC narrow the list of properties worthy of possible historic preservation status to 20 or so buildings in Ojai whose loss would be truly detrimental to the town. And so Tuesday evening, Commissioner Craig Walker presented a slideshow of the 37 properties in Ojai that HPC thinks should be considered for preservation. And it says that proposal was welcomed by the City Council. So that's what we've been working on. At some point, I think we need to talk to the City Council and see if some of the objections are with the number of the properties or the types of the properties. I just feel like at some point that we need to get further clarification from the council before we spin our wheels. So that's all I had in comment to the items that were mentioned.
Thank you. There being no planning report tonight, so we'll move on to commissioner comments. Commissioner James?
Commenting on this.
Just general comments or,
Let's see. I didn't know we were going to do that. I had a question on the sites of merit. Did you ever decide whether they're, they can decide if they want a site of merit, or does the city just decide that it's a site of merit?
that's the list of the historic sites of merit or something that this commission establishes.
Okay. So the people then have to become a site of merit? They don't, because someone said we were going to ask them if they would like to be one. I thought that you said that.
Well,
Oh.
no,
Oh,
as
okay.
Commissioner Akins described, it kind of grew out of uh-huh. I think we do.
Ahead of
I think we
time, yeah.
have. Yeah.
So they would know, yeah.
We actually contacted all of the property owners prior to the presentation that Craig Walker presented to the City Council so that they would be aware of that presentation. Because I know people I know that came back and asked me.
Commissioner Akins, any
I said enough.
McHatton?
Happy to be here.
Could I just
We're
make
happy to have
one
you.
quick request? Could we have Commissioner McCatton, I mean, we've read the dossier, or her. Could you just tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're wanted to be on the commission? Is that okay?
Sure.
Yes.
About a year ago, I serve on another board with Craig Walker for our school at Valley Oak Charter. And I was talking to him I always talk to him about history and Ojai and architecture. And I didn't even know this existed at the time. And I became interested, and he told me about it, and I just started attending the meetings. I just feel like I've been in Ojai now for 13 years. And the city has given me so much that I just felt I'm at a time in my life, my children are older, that I can give back. And if I'm going to give back, I want it to be something that I'm really passionate about. And this commission is very important. And I'd like the community to know more about it, to be proactive more with social media and with just having them understand, having them feel a part. I think that the timing with the Thomas Fire, everyone had this collective need to, or just desire. Everybody wanted to save Ojai, and it's not because it's just where we live. It's because it's unique, and it's a very giving place in so many ways. So, if I can help preserve it and have the community know more about what we do, I think I'll be very happy.
Thank you very much. And I was going to say that it is one of the things that came up in talking to Commissioner McCatton about her participation on the commission, that we do need to increase our social media presence, and she has expressed a willingness to work on that with other commissioners.
I know of something
So that,
I can help.
because what happens is that when we do get into some slightly controversial areas, that we need to have a voice in that venue, because there are other voices there. So I wanted to make a couple of comments about the joint meeting that we had with council. We did talk about the Historic Sites of Merit list, and I expressed my desire that they be given some sort of protections, and that first layer of protection would, of course, be the requirement that there be a review by staff if an application came in for an alteration or building permit on a Historic Sites of Merit, that it be decided at that level, I think, first, whether it come to the HPC. We didn't get total buy-in from council, but it's important that we just keep having this conversation, and I think that this is where the City Historic Resources Survey comes in, because sites are rated there. Building properties are rated there as to importance, and it is a tool that we could use. The staff's not required to use it, but it is a valuable tool. The city paid for it. Mm-hmm. And so that might be a way to, see whether something was needed to be referred to HPC and it not be actually made a change to the ordinance for HPC. In addition to that, I would like to, second the idea that we have agendized a discussion of new, requesting of council new historic resources reports for a couple of sites or buildings, and I'd like to have a fuller representation by the commission present for that discussion. Those are my comments for tonight. Commissioner Akins?
Sorry. Mark Lewis. The museum report is not here. Don can help me on this. On this coming Saturday, the Ojai Studio Artists Show will open, and there'll be an opening reception from 5 to 7. And so we invite everybody to come. Free. And the artwork, what was the theme? Thank you, Don. I'm pinch hitting on this.
I am too. I just pulled it up from the museum website so everyone can find all the information under Ojai Valley Museum and in the events listing. So this is the museum's 16th annual exhibition with the Ojai studio artists. They are all local professional artists that are juried by their peers. So we have 62 works of art. The title of the exhibition this year is called Scorched Souls, which is the artist's emotional response reaction to the Thomas Fire and the Thomas Fire recovery efforts. So this Saturday from 5 to 7, the museum is hosting a free opening reception. Local firefighters as well as first responders have also been invited, and there will be a number of the artists who are also present. Just a few other historical noteworthy events coming up. On Sunday, the day after the reception, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., CAPS Media will be at the museum to record Thomas Fire stories. So it is a joint project with the Ojai Valley Museum, Museum of Ventura County Library, and CAPS Media. The recorded interviews will be archived, and the eventual goal is to have the entire archive accessible to the public. Some interviews may be used in a comprehensive documentary. If you are unable to make that recording on Sunday from 10 to 2, there will be an additional recording date in Ojai on Sunday, March 25th from noon to 4 at the library. Let's see, just taking a quick look.
Yeah.
Oh, and we have a
Behind
town
you.
talk that was rescheduled due to an illness. This Sunday, we will be presenting from 4:30 to 6 o'clock, Ojai by Design. Our local Ojai historian, Craig Walker, who authored the Arts Commission book entitled Ojai by Design, Exceptional Local Architecture, will speak on the book at that time. So we have a number of other events coming up, but I'll stick to the historical ones at this time and invite everyone to check out the website at ojaivalleymuseum.org under event listings.
Great,
Thank
thank
you.
you, Don.
Thank you, John. I did want to include in my comments that in response to the interest that we have had from the general public about the possibility of an historic district for the downtown area, that did come up at the joint meeting with council. I think there's a fair amount of interest in it. My own feeling is that it would be a daunting task. It has its challenges with the number of property owners and stakeholders in the downtown area. And so I think a fuller discussion of that would also take place as an agenda item separate from our discussion of which historic sites of merit or buildings or monuments we would consider for requesting historic resources reports. It's a big, would be a potentially big project. I'm in favor of it, but I'm not naive about the challenges therein. I'd like to invite Councilman Blatz to address the commission. How are you?
I am doing fine. Good evening, Chair McCready and members of the commission. Welcome to our new commissioner. Welcome aboard. I don't have anything particular to talk about, although I do maybe add a little bit to the discussion for clarification's sake about the sites of merit. There is no significant legal meaning to a site of merit. These are identified properties that the commission has identified in the city, but they have no significance particularly to meaning anything with regard to those particular pieces of property. So if the commission has designated them as such, and they have gotten and perhaps approved by the council, although I don't think any of them have been approved by the council, which would be required, you certainly could contact any of them to see if they wanted to achieve landmark status. But just because they're have some sort of significance in the community, there's no there's nothing legally about them being on that list that has any bearing whatsoever. Okay? Okay. I think it is a working document, yeah.
I think it wasn't clarified that well before, so thank you.
Yeah. I thought we had a great joint meeting. I hope that we did. You thought so the same way. I don't have anything else to report tonight to you, except thank you. It still is so impressive, the amount of work that our commission's put out, and the Historic Preservation Commission is unlike the other ones. It's just, the expertise that we have and what you produce in terms of a product for our city is so appreciated.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank
Good
you.
to see you.
And lastly, I just want to say again, welcome, Commissioner McHatton. You're going to be a terrific addition to our commission, so welcome. There being no further business, we're adjourned.